Good morning. It's Tuesday, March 27th, 2018. Here are your Grant morning announcements. My name is Sam.
And I'm Max. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please check out your menu for lunch this week. Today it will be whole grain pizza, pizza taco, green beans, oh my god, peaches, pretzel stick, and milk. For Wednesday it will be a hamburger, and on Thursday we will finish off the week with whole grain chicken chunks.
That's right. There is no school on Friday, and that is the beginning of our spring vacation. Let's go over to Trinity with a check on the weather.
Good morning. Today we will see a high of 50 degrees with rain. I predict a 41% chance of outdoor recess. It'll rain. That rain will continue into Wednesday and Thursday, and temperatures will stay in the high 40s. For Friday, our first day of vacation. Yep, you guessed it. More rain. The sun should come back around on Saturday and stay with us on Sunday. As always, be sure to dress for the weather and make it a wonderful weather day. Let's go over to Stella with Strange Sweatshirt.
Thanks. As you know, March is Women's History Month, and today I want to tell you about a farmer. She got cancer, and the doctors took cells from her body to test them. Normally, when cells are taken from a body, they die really quickly, but not Henrietta's. Her cells didn't die. Her cells lived. And they did something even crazier than that. They multiplied. Basically, her cells became immortal. They simply cannot die naturally. Her immortal line of cells, known as HeLa cells, would be super vital to some of the most important medical research of our time, like vitro fertilization, cloning, gene mapping, and developing vaccines that keep us from getting things like chickenpox. She died in 1951 from the cancer, and her cells have impacted nearly every person in America, and she never even knew it. Her name is Henrietta Lacks, and she was an amazing woman in history. Back to you, anchors.
Now that's something to think about. We have an announcement from Mr. Manderfield.
Yes, we do. We want to send out a congratulations to the 5th grade cardio bowling club members for a successful 8-week program of fun, fitness, competition, cooperation, and team building. Great job to all those members.
Today is a great day because we also have a special treat for all of you.
We do? What is it?
Mr. McGuan, one of our 5th grade teachers, is going to read us a really awesome book. Take it away, Mr. McGuan.
Good morning, everybody. This is Mr. McGuan from Grant, and I have a book that I'd like to read to you. It's called The 7 Silly Eaters by Mary Ann Hoberman and illustrated by Marla Frazee. Before I read, I want to tell you a little bit about why I chose this book. As you can see on the cover, there's a lot of characters in this book, and these are all brothers and sisters, and there's a mom and a dad in the story. And it reminds me of my house growing up. I came from a big family, and just like in this book, where this mom does everything she can to make her kids happy, my mom did the same thing too. I also like the book because the illustrations, much like the one on the cover, there's just so much to look at. So not only is the story an interesting story, but the pictures are interesting too. And then finally, there's just something about the words. I'm not sure what it is, but there's something interesting about the words. Maybe you could figure it out when you listen to me read the book. All right, ready? Here we go. The 7 Silly Eaters by Mary Ann Hoberman. Not so long ago, they say, a mother lived just like today. Mrs. Peters was her name. Her little boy was named the same. Now Peter was a perfect son in every way except for one. When Peter was just 1 year old, he did not like his milk served cold. He did not like his milk served hot. He liked it warm, and he would not drink it if he was not sure it was the proper temperature. But Mrs. Peters did not mind. She was a mother, sweet and kind, and when his milk spilled on the floor, she patiently prepared some more. She'd take the bottle from the shelf and chuckle softly to herself, "What a silly sort of eater is my darling baby Peter." When Peter had not yet turned 2, another baby, sweet and new, was born. Dear Lucy, small and fair, with big blue eyes and curly hair. But long before this child was grown, she had opinions of her own, of what she'd eat and what she'd not. She hated milk, both cold and hot, and warm was worst of all. Instead, whenever Lucy dear was fed, she bellowed for pink lemonade, not from a can, oh no, homemade. But Mrs. Peters did not mind. She squeezed each lemon to its rind while mopping milk up from the floor and patiently preparing more. She'd take the lemons from the shelf and giggle softly to herself. What a silly pair of eaters are Lucy and dear and Peter Peters. Now Lucy grew and Peter grew till he was 3 and she was 2. And who was one? Why, little Jack, with eyes so brown and hair so black. A happy baby, never cross, but all he'd eat was applesauce. Peeling apples by the pound, Mrs. Peters faintly frowned. She'd take the apples from the shelf and murmur weakly to herself, what a silly bunch of eaters are Lucy, Jack, and Peter Peters. Peter, Lucy, and young Jack had another brother, Mac. Mac was charming, round and plump, but if his oatmeal had a lump, Mac would dump it on the cat. Mrs. Peters hated that. But since she loved her children 4, she'd strain the oatmeal 2 times more. She'd take it from the pantry shelf and mumble sadly to herself, what a foolish group of eaters are my little precious Peters. Before another year was through, who came along? Why, Mary Lou. She was a darling, sweet and bright, and had a healthy appetite. This is as long as she was fed soft and squishy homemade bread. Poor Mrs. Peters got no rest, but still she did her very best. She'd take the flour from the shelf and mutter feebly to herself, what a fussy bunch of eaters are all my lovely little Peters. A year rolled by, the children grew, they really are a splendid crew, sighed Mrs. Peters, pinning pins and diapering her brand new twins. Little sisters, quick and smart, impossible to tell apart, but Flo liked poached eggs, Fran liked fried. If she mixed them up, they cried. Tired to the very bone, Mrs. Peters groaned a groan. She'd take the eggs down from the shelf and whisper weakly to herself, ugh, what a persnickety young eaters are all my 7 little Peters. Now time went by as time will do, and as it passed, the children grew. The problem was, as they grew, their appetites kept growing too, but not their choice of what to eat. Each child continued to repeat. They wanted what they'd had before. The trouble was, they wanted more. Creamy oatmeal, pots of it. Homemade bread, and lots of it. Peeling apples by the peck. Mrs. Peters was a wreck. She wiped her brow and heaved a sigh. Another year was passing by. In fact, she realized with sorrow her birthday would arrive tomorrow. Drearily, she shook her head and wearily went up to bed. She thought the children had forgot her special day, but they had not. At the crack of dawn, they all began to carry out their secret plan. Mrs. Peters would be fed a birthday breakfast in her bed. A breakfast made of all the foods that kept them in such happy moods. So while their weary mother slept, down the stairs the children crept, and from the cupboards and the shelves, happily they helped themselves. Cheerfully they chopped and stirred, preparing what they each preferred. But despite the pains they took, since nobody knew how to cook, to measure things or make them hot, the more they tried, the worse it got. First, Mac's oatmeal turned out lumpy, which made poor Mac turn grim and grumpy. In fact, the lumps got him so cross, he dumped them in Jack's applesauce. This bothered Jack so much, he threw it in the dough of Mary Lou, who tossed the mishmash that made straight into Lucy's lemonade. And that put her in such a huff, she poured the icky stuff into the double frying pan that held the eggs of Flo and Fran, who flung the hodgepodge on the spot into the milk in Peter's pot. But when they saw what they had done, they wished they'd never had begun. They'd hardly slept a wink that night, and still things hadn't turned out right. And even though they tried their best, it hadn't worked. They were depressed. They'd be in trouble too unless they found some place to hide the mess. The oven seemed the perfect spot. They all forgot it was still hot. They stuck the pot inside, and then they all went back to bed again. The clock struck 6, but on they slept. Meanwhile, their mother softly stepped down to the kitchen, smelled a smell. What could it be? She could not tell. It smelled so good, she sniffed some more and opened up the oven door. She woke the children with her cries. They all came running in surprise, and in the kitchen, what they found was Mrs. Peters dancing around. And in the oven, no mistake, a pink and plump and perfect cake. And as their mother danced with glee, she cried, "A birthday cake for me! A birthday cake still piping hot? To think I thought you all forgot. Now tell me, please, how did you make this pink and plump and perfect cake so high and light and smooth as silk?" "It's smooth as silk from all my milk," said Peter. Lucy said, "It's pink from all my lemonade, I think, and from my apples," said Jack. "My oatmeal made it soft," said Mac. "My bread dough too," said Mary Lou. Said Fran and Flo, "As for its size, it was our eggs that made it rise." Then everybody sniffed some more and danced around the kitchen floor. They put the cake upon a dish and lit the candles. "Make a wish," the children cried, "before you blow." And Mrs. Peters did just so. And what is more, her wish came true, as birthday wishes always do. And from that day to this, 'tis said, the Peters family all is fed a single simple meal, just one, a meal that's good for everyone, a meal on which they all agree, made from their secret recipe. They all take turns in mixing it, they all take turns in fixing it. It's thick to beat and quick to bake, it's fine to eat and fun to make. It's Mrs. Peters' birthday cake. Thank you.
That was excellent. And now it is time for a joke to end our newscast. Did you hear about the farmer that fed crayons to his chickens?
What? That's crazy talk. Why in the world did the farmer feed crayons to his chickens?
He wanted them to lay colored eggs.
This is Samantha,
Max,
Trinity.
And Stella.
signing off.
The news is in and we're